Welcome to this explainer. Have you ever walked into a room and just completely forgotten why you went in there? Or maybe you struggled to recall a name you heard literally 5 minutes ago. Look, most of us just laugh it off. We say, "Oh, I'm just getting older." But today, we're diving into the hard science of what is actually happening inside your head, investigating the alarming reality of short-term memory loss. And as you're about to see, it is absolutely not just normal aging.
Well, what if I told you that the real culprit behind those frustrating blank moments is actual physical shrinkage in a very specific part of your brain? It sounds terrifying, right? And frankly, it is. Because by the time you actually start noticing these memory slips, this shrinkage has already been silently happening in the background for years.
10 to 20%. Let that sink in. That is the shocking amount of brain tissue you might have already lost by age 70. This isn't just a guess, it's according to a landmark study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. So it's not just your brain metaphorically slowing down, you're dealing with a measurable, physical loss of brain tissue.
We've identified the problem, so here's our exact roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the shrinking hippocampus. Then, we'll break down 3 silent threats: chronic stress, neural inflammation, and declining BDNF. And finally, we'll wrap up with the 3-step repair protocol to fix it.
All right, let's jump right into part 1, the shrinking hippocampus.
Think of the hippocampus as the specific brain region responsible for forming absolutely every single short-term memory you have. Where you put your keys, the name of the person you just met, the conversation you had this morning over coffee, it all lives right here. Now, what's truly fascinating is that while the hippocampus shrinks about 1 to 2% a year after age 60, peer-reviewed neuroscience proves it doesn't have to be a one-way street, it can actually be regrown.
Which brings us to part 2, threat 1, chronic stress, the silent assassin.
Let me tell you about Richard. He's a 67-year-old retired firefighter from Pennsylvania. Richard genuinely thought he was just aging when he started forgetting entire conversations with his grandchildren from the exact same day, but his body had actually forgotten how to turn off its stress response. He was constantly pumping out toxic levels of the stress hormone cortisol. I want you to imagine your hippocampus as a beautiful tree with a vast branching network. Chronically elevated cortisol is literally like pouring acid on that tree every single day. The branches wither, they retract, and eventually they just disappear.
A massive McGill University study followed older adults over 5 years and proved, without a doubt, that elevated cortisol directly causes this hippocampal shrinkage. But here is the amazing part. Once a specific protocol was put in place to normalize Richard's cortisol levels, the decline completely stopped. His memory actually returned. His wife was absolutely thrilled. She told his doctor, "I got my husband back."
Let's move on to part 3, threat 2, neuroinflammation. Basically, the body attacking itself.
To really get what's happening here, we have to talk about microglia. These are highly specialized cells that act as your brain's security guards and immune system. So the crucial point is that after age 60, decades of accumulated wear and tear cause these security guards to glitch and get stuck in a permanent attack mode. It is exactly like a fire department whose hoses won't turn off. Eventually, the constant, massive stream of water causes way more structural damage to the building than the original fire ever did. When these microglia get stuck in chronic attack mode, they release highly inflammatory molecules, specifically things like interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha. And this is a huge deal. A study published in JAMA Neurology found that elevated levels of these specific markers directly correlate with faster hippocampal shrinkage over a 10-year period. They are quite literally eating away at your synaptic connections from the inside out. Next up is part 4, threat 3, declining BDNF, a critical shortage of supplies.
So what exactly is BDNF? Brain-derived neurotrophic factor is essentially the vital fertilizer your brain produces to stimulate new neuron growth and strengthen existing connections. Research from the National Institute on Aging shows that our BDNF production drops significantly as we age. And worse yet, it's further suppressed by the heavy cortisol and neuroinflammation we were just talking about. Without adequate BDNF, your brain simply lacks the raw materials to rebuild those connections, meaning the shrinkage becomes permanent.
All right, now for the good news, part 5, the 3-step repair protocol. It's time to flip the script.
Step 1 is moderate aerobic exercise. Check this out. A University of Pittsburgh study of adults over 60 found that the group doing brisk aerobic walking for 40 minutes 3 times a week saw a 2% increase in hippocampus volume. The group that just did stretching, they actually lost 1.5%. This brilliantly illustrates that just walking briskly, just enough to make you breathe noticeably harder, can fully reverse 1 to 2 years of shrinkage and flood your brain with that vital BDNF fertilizer.
Step 2 is all about sleep optimization. Let's look at Sandra, a 71-year-old retired teacher from Illinois. She was forgetting names within minutes and constantly misplacing items around the house. You have to think of your hippocampus as a temporary loading dock. It requires deep, slow-wave sleep to permanently transfer those memories off the dock and into the brain's cortex for long-term storage. Because Sandra had poor sleep architecture, her loading dock was completely jammed every single night.
Sandra was only getting a measly 12 minutes of deep sleep a night, but by enforcing a consistent sleep schedule, cooling her room down to about 65 to 67 degrees, and introducing some magnesium glycinate before bed, her memory-saving deep sleep absolutely skyrocketed from 12 minutes to over 50 minutes nightly. Her memory complaints decreased dramatically. She literally said it made her feel like someone finally flipped the lights back on in her brain.
Then we have Step 3, targeted anti-inflammatory nutrition. This is required to shut off those microglia fire hoses we discussed earlier. This means consuming omega-3s from fatty fish, like salmon or sardines, 2 to 3 times a week to cross the blood-brain barrier and calm the brain directly. It means eating daily polyphenols from things like blueberries, walnuts, and extra virgin olive oil. And critically, it means eliminating the processed foods and sugars that can spike those inflammatory cytokines within mere hours.
Let's bring this all together with the story of Eleanor, a 73-year-old retired bookkeeper from Ohio. Eleanor honestly felt like her mind was dissolving. She couldn't even finish a book because she couldn't remember what happened on the previous page. Her former doctor told her it was hopeless, just a normal part of aging after 70. But we implemented all 3 steps of this protocol simultaneously.
The results were absolutely astounding. At 12 months, her cognitive scores were remarkable. She could easily recite highly specific details from conversations she previously would have lost in a matter of minutes. Her response to this protocol was incredibly profound. She simply said, "You gave me my mind back."
So, here is your master plan, the Hippocampus Repair Protocol. It's the exact roadmap, backed by hard research from Harvard Medical School, UC Berkeley, and the National Institute on Aging. It addresses cortisol, neuroinflammation, and BDNF all at once. Aerobic exercise to regrow brain volume, sleep optimization to consolidate those memories, and anti-inflammatory nutrition to protect your brain from further damage. The science clearly proves that your brain isn't just randomly giving up on you, so don't give up on it. The big question for you right now is, what is the very first step you will take today to protect every memory you make from this moment forward? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Get out there, start that brisk walk, protect your sleep, and I will see you next time.